And we now welcome you to season 2, episode 6 of Wilk and Wiss, your bi-weekly breakdown of Utah athletes in the National Football League. And this is our week 2 recap. I am your co-manager, Tanner Wilkinson, my
You do the big picture
co.
stuff. I'll do day to day.
You read my mind, brother. You beat me by 2 seconds. Cole
We've
Wissinger.
we've done this a couple times before.
Yeah.
What's up? Yeah,
Dude.
this is week two recap, fresh off of Monday night, and I want to pull an audible
Oof.
on you already. We didn't do the Monday night game until the very end of the show last week's recap. It's fresh on my mind. I want to talk about it
Let's
right now
talk
because we had
about
a
it.
good one.
It was a wild one.
Yeah.
Uh, Atlanta 22, Philadelphia 21. Philly deciding. First of all, Britton Covey was featured heavily tonight in the receiving game with
No AJ
eight,
Brown, and all of a
yeah,
sudden Britton Covey is the number one target guy.
6 catches, 23 yards. Had a Devon Vele type game. I guess that's what Utah receivers have been doing. Uh,
And Peyton Manning and Eli and Matt Ryan and everyone, he was open on that last play. Like Jalen Hurts was locked into Devontae Smith because that's his guy, but they were saying 18, throw it to 18, throw it to the cross.
hmm. See, and I don't watch the Manning cast, which is crazy because it's so brilliant and so good.
I am all the
I
way Manning cast pill. Yeah,
I I
that I wanted to talk about that too.
I like Joe Buck too much to not listen to him. That's the problem I
Mm.
have. If it when it was Steve Levy and some of these other guys that just
ESPN
weren't
couldn't
that
figure it out for
great, yeah.
years.
Oh, the Manning cast was a haven. And now it's tough because you have two really high quality broadcasts going on at the same time, and I can't not shoot just Joe Buck. But
We got
anyway,
time on our recap show, and so we get into stuff like this, but we do broadcasts for like high school games, and so you'd think we'd be kind of broadcast wonks, like we want to know these kind of things. I realized as I was sitting there watching the Manning cast that I don't listen to a conventional NFL broadcast any day. So Thursday, when I tune in, I'm doing like the Amazon Prime Vision and
okay.
whatever, and it's kind of like second screened for me because it's
Uh-huh.
a Thursday night and the matchup's not normally good. Then I'm Red Zone for the
Yep.
Sunday morning and afternoons. Sunday night, we're at my in-laws, and my mother-in-law, wonderful lady, but she's like pretty anti-sports. We have the TV on mute most of the time for Sunday night football specifically, while we're watching it. And then Monday night, I'm Manningcast guy. There's not
That's
an NFL
fascinating.
game where, and if I do, it's the Thursday night. And the Thursday, like Al Michaels recently has just been beyond checked out and does not care. So, like, that's the only normal play by play analyst broadcast that I listen to during the week, and it's not good.
That's fascinating. That's crazy. Uh, Tyler Algier also nine. Algier was great tonight. The whole run game of
And
Atlanta was
featured
good. Yeah, 9 carries, 53 yards. Caden Elliss, 11 tackles, and one very important QB hit
last play of the
on
game.
the last play that maybe made Hurts sail that a little bit. I think that was getting picked either way, the way Bates read that, and it was a force feed. But yeah, man, the Atlanta Falcons. First of all, Philadelphia is up by 3 under the 2 minute warning. Atlanta is out of timeouts. It's 3rd and 3. I
And
would
then
have, and then they decide to
they,
throw.
so they throw the out. They don't lose any more time. They put it right on Saquon's hands.
It
And of
was a
all
good
guys,
throw.
that's where you want it to go. And Saquon just dropped it. But then you don't like, if you're throwing it on that down, then you're going for it on the next one, right? And then they decide not to.
See, and I would have ran it twice.
Yep.
You go with a Saquon run, and if you don't get it, you
Tush.
probably are in a tush situation. Yes, which we've was proven tonight with Jason Kelsey in the booth and not on the field. They were still pretty darn good at it. Oh, that loss. It was like what happened to Philly a year ago. Like, has really much changed with this Eagles? I mean,
Mm.
there are
And
some
so
questions now.
I bashed your Eliminator Survivor Pool pick last week, and then I didn't admit what mine was this week in our picks show. It was this game. I
That's
missed it. I was betting against
that's
primetime Kirk
amazing.
Cousins. I was like, it was Eagles. Atlanta looked, I was very familiar with how Atlanta looked bad last week because I was watching the whole Steelers game, and I watched like the full replay afterwards. YouTube TV saved it for me, and I watched it again on Tuesday morning or whatever, and I thought this Falcons team wouldn't have a chance. And then Kirk Cousins 5 of 6 on that last drive and just dicing it up.
Winning me my Dynasty League matchup this week with Drake London. That's
There you go.
as Joey Tribbiani once said, that's London, baby. Wild Monday night game though. Yeah,
It was fun.
I like that we threw that out there first, given the what went on tonight.
So now let's wind the clock all the way back to last Thursday, which seems like forever ago.
Mm.
Tua gets injured. Miami can't get going. Buffalo dominant. James Cook, however many fantasy points in the first half. Just again, so Thursday, I don't think I watched the second half of this game, honestly, because I got other things to do on Thursday
I
sometimes.
I didn't watch the fourth quarter. I can tell you
So
that much.
Buffalo 31, Miami 10. Our Utah guys, Dalton Kincaid had 4 receptions for 33, three more receptions than he had in week one. So we're working him into the offense a little bit more as they figure out who the targets are going to go to. And then Cole Bishop had a tackle and a pass breakup.
Buffalo was really interesting because outside of Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid, I don't think anyone else had more than a reception. A couple guys had goose eggs.
Keon, they don't
Keon
know what
Coleman
they're
didn't
doing
have a
with Keon
catch.
Coleman.
Valdez Scantling didn't have a reception. I think Ty Johnson might have ended up with one. I mean, James Cook might have had more than one now that I'm thinking about it. But Kincaid, they went to Kincaid early and
Yeah,
then kind of went away from him. So something to keep an eye on there as Buffalo looks good while still trying to figure. That's what's scary. They're still figuring things out and they
this
still
was the
look good.
transition year, and they look
Yes.
that good against the team I thought would be the best in the AFC, and I was very wrong on that.
Miami signing another quarterback. Well, they did. They signed. Well, yeah, they signed a Utah. They signed Jordan Huntley
Let's
today,
talk.
or
Yeah,
Tyler Huntley today. So that's interesting. I think he's definitely better than Skylar Thompson is. From the limited Tyler or Skylar Thompson, that we've seen.
but 6 days to learn Mike McDaniel's stuff. Like we probably don't see Tyler
This,
Huntley for a little while, and
I,
then how long is Tua really going to be out? But
yeah,
it's a Utah guy.
yeah. See, if I'm Miami, I would have rather gone and gotten a guy like Tannehill. That's
Yeah.
what I would have done. But New Orleans.
Wow.
Wow. What can we say about Clint Kubiak? He's certainly taken home a lot of accolades as the offensive coordinator. Saints dropped 44 on the Cowboys, who only scored 19. Jamal Williams has been really good in this role now that he's healthy. 8 carries, 39 yards. Taysom Hill, 3 carries, 18 yards. Went to the hospital after the game as a precaution. He's fine.
Yeah.
In fact, I think he's going to play this week. I think it's probably just a kind of like a chest contusion type thing, maybe a rib type situation, but it sounds like he's already going to play. And then how about Rashid Shaheed, man? Four
Mm-hmm.
catches, 96 yards, and a score. That score was phenomenal. Derek Carr looks better than he ever did in Vegas or Oakland. And that's really saying something because he had at least one decent year there. And man, the Saints are proving me wrong. We'll see, 2 weeks in, but man, they look good.
They absolutely do. Also in the also 2-0 in the NFC South. Tampa Bay beats up on Detroit, a team that we both had very high expectations of coming into the season. Our two Utah guys both on the Detroit side. You have Sione Vaki with 1 reception for 17 yards, and Tim Patrick, 2 receptions, 12 yards. Tim Patrick's back in our
Yeah.
weekly rundown. Good to see
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, he's finally healthy. Denver tried to trade him, which now I don't know why, given what lack they have in Denver. But yeah, I was on the Lions practice squad, got called up this week and did a few things. Want to point out the Sione Vaki catch was on a fake punt that Detroit ran, which is
Right.
kind of cool. So he's a versatile guy. He plays running back and safety. And so why not? That's the perfect guy to
The Dan Campbell
utilize him.
football player. Yeah.
Yes, maybe
Who
he's
else?
Taysom 2.0 in a way, without minus the throwing. But Sione Vaki was made his debut in a big way, even though Baker May Baker Mayfield, man, two of your best quarterbacks in the National Football League right now are Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold, who last
Yes.
played for the Carolina Panthers, who just benched their number one overall pick today. I'm happy
Yeah.
for Baker. I really am.
If you want to talk about your dynasty team getting the win, my highest scoring player on my dynasty team in a loss was Sam Darnold. So that's where I'm at right now.
Mm, oof, oof. Looking at a game my brother attended, and we're kind of hinting there's a good chance he's our guest on the show
Yes.
this week after visiting Lambeau. Packers are 2-0 now when Colby Wilkinson visits Lambeau Field. Packers in a very makeshift game plan. Matt LaFleur brilliance wins 16-10 over the Colts. Only Utah connection with Jordan Love out. Blake Freeland and Julian Blackman both out, by the way, for the Colts. A lot of Utah injuries in this game. Matt Gay 1 for 2 on field goals and then made an extra point as well. A
And
big miss.
Matt Gay was an injury in the
Yes.
first week, and then so he comes back, but they were still talking about there's no way he's 100% because he spent all the time in the hospital just recovering, and so was 1-4-2. It's good to see him being able to get back out there, but
Right.
cross fingers that he can get to be 100% again.
Right.
Jets beat the Titans 24-17. No Utah ties.
Yeah. Brian Callahan's been awfully brutally honest about Will Levis. I'm surprised Bryce Young was benched simply out of he's a number one overall pick. Like, how do you not ride him for another at least half the season, like this early in the season? I won't
But
be
also, how
surprised.
was Bryce benched before Will Levis,
As
considering
as bad as Bryce Young's been and as bad as the Panthers have been, Will Levis, man, and how brutally honest Callahan has been about him. Ugh.
and there's two different models, right? If you have a Will Levis, you need one of those coaches like maybe Bruce Arians that wants more of the big go or big disaster, right? Brian Callahan got Jake Browning to play just successful football last year with Cincinnati. He just wants a guy to come in and be a surrogate for him in the system
Run
so
the
that he can just like
offense.
funnel it through. And Will Levis is this wild card, and Callahan doesn't want anything of it. And he just kind of inherited him anyway, and he's a second round pick, so it's easier to get off of him. And
It's not going to
yeah,
last.
no.
And like I kind of believed
And
in Will
that's
Levis a little bit, but it's just not the fit. It's the fit at this point.
well, let's talk about Baker Mayfield, right? Like earlier on, if Baker Mayfield was forced to run like a stick Kevin Stefanski thing, it kind of worked once, but then eventually he just wanted to be Baker Mayfield and the marriage didn't work, but he's still able to be successful somewhere else. It's all and Bryce Young, I think, still has a chance to do something. I'm with you.
Yeah. Uh, Another wild, a lot of upsets. In fact, the higher the spread, the more likely the upset it seemed. Minnesota defeats San Francisco 23-17. Taki Taimani, our undrafted defensive tackle, had 2 tackles. Jonah Williams getting called up to play in this game, the former Ram and Weber State Wildcat, did have a quarterback hit for the Vikings. Fred Warner doing Fred Warner things, 9 tackles, a sack, a TFL, 2 pass deflections, a quarterback hit, and a pick. And then Mitch Wishnowski, 2 punts, 99 total yards, and both landed inside the 20.
The 49ers lost. Tanner,
Yeah, they
speak
did.
on it.
Uh, I got a text from our good friend McKay Baker, who was on the show last year, and we played each other in our college buddy league. And he had Justin Jefferson, so he said, "Hey, I just got 16 points on one play with a guy, and I said,
Right, right.
but it was against the Niners. All is forgiven.
Yeah, you're okay with
Justin
that.
Jefferson can score 90 against me if the Niners lose. We're all good." But I mean, San Francisco loses games like this every year. Early, but Minnesota's offensive line, man, has been like just crazy good.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Jones has been good. Ty Chandler's been good. The weapons around keep him. Jordan Addison didn't play in this game, and Justin Jefferson goes out, and you still find a way to get it done late. So give Kevin O'Connell a lot of credit on this one.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Shanahan and the 49ers end up doing this once in a while, but I want to spin it into like the 49ers are cooked because that's what I was trying to spin to people during the offseason anyway, right? The Super Bowl losing hangover and all of the contract negotiation issues. They couldn't seem to get anyone to want to come back. And is this the start of the downfall of the 49ers? Probably not, but it'd be cool if it was.
Cool, cool, cool.
Seattle beats the Patriots in overtime, 23-20. No Utah connections here.
Yeah, waiting for Sione Takitaki to get off pup there. But uh, game went about like I thought it would. Maybe a little higher scoring than I thought it would, but yeah, Seattle's 2-0. Washington beats the Giants on 7 field goals, 21-18. Bobby Wagner, 9 tackles, a TFL, and a pass deflection, and Michael Davis records his first stat as a commander with a tackle as well. So, oh boy, this was not a fun game. Oh, just leaving it at that. Oof.
in Dynasty, right? I'm the team that didn't invest in really great quarterbacks, and it's a super flex, so you really want to have quarterbacks. So I have a lot of quarterbacks on my bench that I'm just kind of waiting. I have Andy Dalton, I have Drew Lock, and my Drew Lock time is going to come very, very soon, where I can start paying that off. And I'm
Mm,
sitting around with Sam Darnold from like forever ago, and
yeah, that's not the worst strategy to use. Given that I'm gonna have one starter, one starting quarterback on my roster as of next Sunday. And
ooh,
that's a guy who missed most of last year in
we
Anthony
might need to talk
Richardson. So
talk some trades.
possibly, possibly.
It seems like we're going every other with the Utah connections to talk about, and we finally reached the Carolina Panther game. They lose miserably to the Jim Harbaugh 2-0 Chargers, 26-3, and Bryce Young gets benched.
Yeah, and you know Brady Christensen's a part of that O line, and they're just bad. Everything about this
Yeah.
team is just bad. I mean, it's an organizational thing at this point. Even though you bring Dave Canales in, and there seemed to be a little more optimism and good body language going on in camp, just it's just so bad. Uh, Colin Stolmaker, who joined us last year on the show, Panther fan, in our family group chat with our family league, said, "Oh, and 17, here we come." Just has kind of accepted it. Uh, no worse situation in the National Football League than the Carolina Panthers right now.
Yeah.
Cleveland and Jacksonville, a defensive struggle in the in the Deshaun Watson pointing up toward heaven and someone being like, no, pulling the Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
No, no.
That was
Uh,
the meme from our DMs of the
yes,
week
yes,
was God saying back,
no.
don't put that one on me, buddy.
No. Cleveland wins 18-13. Jacksonville's offense looks bad again. Devin Lloyd was solid, 8 tackles, 2 pass deflections, and a QB hit for the Jags.
Las Vegas come from behind
Mm.
on the Ravens, who are now 0-2,
In Baltimore
26-23. Kyle Van Noy had three tackles, two sacks, three tackles, four losses, three quarterback hits. He was
with a
in the
broken
backfield
eye socket. Like I thought Van Noy was
and he
going to go on
played.
IR and he
Yeah.
played. Yeah, I guess having
And
the
then
extra couple days helped, but
Marcus Williams, three tackles, also on the board.
yeah, Baltimore is so weird. This does concern me a little bit because the Raiders are not supposed to be good. Gardner Minshew could complete any pass he wanted to, and some of them were designed, the short dump offs and things like that. But
Mhm.
got to fix some things if you're the Ravens going forward for sure.
First 2 weeks, and they lost their entire defensive coaching staff. Like when you talk about the proliferation of the Mike McDonald, not McDaniel, coaching system, right? The Dolphins steal, the Titans steal, like so you're just diving deep into the University of Michigan and your Harbaugh-ish roots. So you have to rebuild an entire coaching staff because you got so decimated. So it makes sense that they're starting a little bit slow. I still think the Ravens can come back and win this division.
Let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals for
Please.
uh for just a moment, if you'll indulge. The best that I've seen the Cards play in a long time. Come out and beat the Rams 41-10. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s first quarter. It's why you draft a guy like that at 4. It's why he's considered the best wide receiver prospect. Now it's about putting a full game together at this point and even he was very brutally honest about it after the game. He said Kyler had 4 incompletions. They all were targets towards me. That has to change, which is a great attitude to have after having the first quarter you had. Your first 2 catches are long touchdowns. One's a tap toe in the back of the end zone, and the other is a catch and run, diving for the pylon. I mean, it was just so fun to see. And I had a pretty big smile on my face. Also, probably Kyler Murray's best game of his career. He's always struggled against the Rams, no matter what year, no matter how good or bad the Rams are, how good or bad the Cards have been. That was fun to see. 41-10, your final. Jackson Barton, who got called up to the Cardinals as an offensive lineman, had a tackle because of that late Clayton Tune fumble.
Oh
So,
yeah.
but good to have Jackson on in Arizona. The Arizona offensive line's the best I've ever seen it. Paris Campbell was the perfect pick a year ago. Uh, Monty's picks as the general manager for Arizona are paying off. And
Mm.
does it still mean I think Arizona is necessarily a playoff team this year? But they're going to be a fun team to watch. They're going to be competitive. And that's all I could ask for coming into the season. Be competitive, be fun, and they were more than competitive on Sunday.
Yeah, when you're in the middle of the rebuild, you just want to be able to be entertaining almost. Like, give us some hope that something's going to happen. And Kyler did that even as a rookie. I remember he was great against the spread. He was just getting close, and you could tell there was something there. And then people lost faith because they thought he was playing too many video games, and like you have all kinds of other narratives that go on. Kyler Murray's still good, folks.
No, and here's the thing too. What's absolutely crazy is that torn ACL might have been the best thing to happen to Kyler Murray. He refocused, it humbled him a lot, and he has put in so much work these last two off seasons. First, just to get healthy from that ACL, and then how do I get better? That scramble touchdown to Elijah Higgins
Oh yeah.
made I jump. I was almost more excited for that than the Marvin touchdown simply because of how it looked like it was going to be a sack, and even for him to just throw that away, but no, he throws a dart to a tight end. Oh, was awesome. Was a fun day to be a Cardinals fan on Sunday.
And while he's injured, the whole team around him kind of gets this reset. You get a new coaching staff in. Drew Petzing seems to be pulling the best out of him.
I tell you, this staff, man, as I doubted it at first, I thought, oh, here we go. And I've had reason to because Arizona's last two hires were absolute garbage. And man, give Jonathan Gannon a lot of credit for establishing an awesome culture, the best culture that's been there, maybe even beyond Bruce Arians, maybe since the Kent Whisenhunt days. Because as good as those teams were under Arians, we all know Bruce is Bruce.
Arians can rub some guys, yeah.
Yes, yes. So anyway,
So now let's talk about the only 2-0 team in the AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers, folks. They got a touchdown this week. Things are looking up. 13-6 win over the Denver Broncos because the Broncos are bad. Jalen Warren gets 9 carries for 42 yards, and then Cody Barton 7 tackles, Jonah Ellis 3 tackles, a sack, tackle for loss, quarterback hit.
yeah, Jonah Ellis might have been the only bright spot for Denver in that game. That was tough. But man, I tell you, Justin Fields is going to keep this job, man. He's done what he's needed to do to win the games.
Which, okay, so my preseason take was that I was afraid that Russell Wilson would keep the job for too long because the beginning of the Steelers' schedule is very easy and the end of it is very hard. Just the way, like, even though we both predicted the Falcons to be the best team in the NFC South, and they still might be despite those other teams having that good start, but as Kirk Cousins gets healthier, right, and they get this offense together, you'd be afraid to play the Falcons later on. Steelers got them week 1. They got Bo Nix in his second ever game, right? So things are slow to start. And I knew that the Steelers would start strong. And you really had to if you were going to get another non-losing season for Mike Tomlin anyway. But I'm also just glad that it's Justin Fields here because I thought he was going to be the better quarterback long term anyway. And hey, man, if you can get anything for Russell Wilson, if Miami comes calling you, all these other injuries happen, why not? Denver's still footing the bill, and Denver's the one that got the loss on the scoreboard today.
Got a petty game ball. Mike Tomlin. I didn't know Mike Tomlin did that, by the way. Gives a game ball to whoever is on the roster that just beats their former team, no matter if they play or not. Like
It's a Tomlin thing.
it's kind of a cool thing in a way.
That's why the
Yeah.
guys love him.
Yeah.
Garrett Bowles had a rough time on that
Yeah.
side. And so now let's talk about another Utah connection offensive lineman that had an even worse time.
Oh, yeah. And his team still luckily won for him, but yeah, got benched midway through. Kansas City beat Cincinnati 26-25. Kingsley Suamataia had a pretty decent week 1. Did have a penalty, but like your first start bound to happen.
And he
Yeah.
held up and they put him on an island out there a lot of
Yeah.
times against
Yeah. Did
Odafe and the other Ravens rushers and
yes.
KVN.
Yes. Trey Hendrickson had him for lunch multiple times. And just the way this Bengals defensive front is
But then
built.
as soon as they put him on the bench, the guy that comes in on the first play has an illegal hands to the face because no one's blocking Trey Hendrickson. Like when Trey
Yeah.
Hendrickson just decides to have that
Right.
game, he's top 7 pass rusher in
Yeah,
the
I
league.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. So Kansas City gets a win on a walk-off field goal, 26-25. Zach Moss, 12 carries, 34 yards. Jay Tufele did have the 2 tackles as well for the Cincinnati Bengals. It was a really, really weird game all the way around. One of the worst games Mahomes has ever played
Cam Taylor
without.
Britt.
That was impressive. Joe Burrow looked so much better in week 2. Jamar Chase, until his little fit that he threw that
Mm.
really, really cost Cincinnati big time on that drive, and you could argue almost cost him the game more so than the pass interference uh, call that was out there. I mean, it was weird, very very weird on that front for the Bengals. But yeah, man, Kansas City's 2-0. Isaiah Pacheco goes down, which is something to keep an eye on for them going forward. But and Hollywood Brown's not going to play the rest of the year. So yeah, Ryan Rico did have two punts for 98 yards as well. Should point that out for Rico in his second game.
Let me throw a take your way here because obviously now we've seen that Cincinnati, if they want to lock in, they can compete with anyone because the Chiefs are really good and they were right in this game and it's only a 1 point loss. It's a good game for Cincinnati, especially after looking so bad last week. They got Zach Taylor. He's one of these just like young Sean McVay, you know, genius offense guys. But the reason that Raheem Morris's and Mike Tomlin's and Dan Campbell's are also head coaches in the league is because sometimes you need to be able to speak to your players and get them to wake up in the morning and go
Mm,
to battle for you. It seems like Cincinnati, when they all just want to, they can. But why do they start slow every single September? It's got to
is
be
it?
something like it's got
Yeah.
to be someone's fault. It's not the scheme. It's not Joe Burrow's health this year. It has been maybe in the past. So what is it? And so if Cincinnati is, has a worse seed or whatever, or if they're fighting at the end to even make the playoffs, or a couple injuries happen, and they look back and oh, they started 0-2. That's why they, were a couple games back and couldn't make the playoffs. The NFL is only a 17 game schedule. You
Hmm.
can't take ones off. And it seems like Cincinnati does this to themselves.
Very much so. I saw a tweet this week that was interesting that Joe Burrow gets more credit even though he lost the Super Bowl than Matt Stafford did for winning it. And
That's
that
true.
that was what very and this is coming from Joe's
I
my
thought about
favorite
you when
quarter.
I saw that because I know you're a Joe Burrow guy
I
and I've
but
not been.
it's true. It's 100% true. The Bengals they've made it to another AFC title game. Okay, the year after they were
Yeah.
very good. But yeah, I mean, really, what has Joe done since? And this is coming from Burrow's one of his biggest fans that's not a Bengals fan or an LSU fan. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the whole AFC North knows it. There's another clip going around social media of Ravens fans celebrating. There's not a lot of fan bases that'll root for the Chiefs nowadays, especially with the Taylor Swift and everything else of it all. But when they play the Bengals, I will root for the Chiefs because the Bengals are the true villain.
Poor Brittany Mahomes. How dare her? Definitely, we don't dive into the political spectrum, folks, but how dare her preferred political candidate make fun of her best friend? In the
Yeah.
words of Britta Perry, I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at making fun of Taylor Swift.
There it is.
Oh, that was too good of a meme not to share that I saw today. Oh, brother.
So then the last game of the Sunday slate, Houston wins over Chicago, and Caleb Williams
Ugh,
has started pretty slow.
that offensive line has started slow as well. I mean, that's a two-way street there.
That's for sure.
That defense is still dang good though. I mean, to hold a
Mm-hmm.
Houston team to 19 points, but
Yeah, Houston 19, Chicago 13. Dalton Schultz, 2 receptions, 21 yards. He's on the field for the offense. Jalen Johnson, one pass deflection, but that's because people aren't throwing his way. Like
yeah,
he has
that's actually a
established
compliment.
himself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
After the game he had last week, yeah, Houston was not throwing there. I think Chicago has just got to figure something out with that offensive line. That's the big thing right now. I think their defense is good enough. It's going to keep them in games, obviously. It's just a matter of figuring some things out with that O line really going forward. So, and Houston's going to be Houston. They won this game because they were the better football team. That's what it came down to. So,
Those pass
oof.
rush stats were wild. Houston getting it. You nailed it. It is the
It
narrative coming off of this game is
yeah. Hunter had the game of his life after how long, how good has he been in Minnesota all these years, and now that he's in, oh my goodness, he just
and
unimpeded most of the night.
the guy that we always talked about the offensive rookie of the year last year for Houston, defensive rookie of the year last year for Houston. The guy was taken one pick after.
Will Anderson, man,
He's here too.
the guy I wanted Arizona to pick had they kept the number 3 spot.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, Cole, let's get to our MVPs of the week. I'm going to throw a couple names out for you, see how you're liking these.
Yeah.
Rashid Shaheed is an obvious candidate. Was on Up and Adams this morning. He's made it. He's not just your return man from Weber State. Rashid Shaheed is a certified weapon for the New Orleans Saints. I'm a big proponent of winning but Fred Warner was so stinking good for the Niners still in this game
Yeah.
that you just have to throw it out there. I'd say similar to Kyle Van Noy, but man, how about Caden Ellis tonight too? That I had my mind pretty well locked on Shaheed until that final play with Ellis. I'm still going to give it to Rashid because
Okay.
the Saints as a whole, even though this is a weekly thing we do, as a whole, Shaheed's contributions to the Saints offense has just been phenomenal. And with a lot of the injuries we've had with these Utah players, it's time for other guys to step up, and Rashid's been that guy.
Yeah, and even on this offense, right? And I'm going Shaheed for my vote. It's we know the Olave is on the other side, but Shaheed is getting that national attention. And you talk about making it onto the talk shows, but also just diving into the X's and O's. He's still the vertical threat that we know he can be, and he's getting utilized elsewhere. Clint Kubiak has drawn stuff up with Shaheed in mind, and so that is my pick.
So the question is, does Britton Covey become the next Shaheed? He was out there catch. That's how it started for. He was just a return
Mm-hmm.
specialist, and now look at him. That's what I want to see. Well, this week's guest, we are going to be speaking to my brother who did join the show last year. It was a dual brother episode. This will be a solo trip for Colby, who
Yeah.
just was in Lambeau for the big Packers win over the Colts. He's going to be in Nashville on Sunday to watch the Malik Willis revenge game. Will be fun to talk to him a little bit more about Lambeau and then what he expects out of the Packers both before and after Jordan Love comes back from the injury.
Did you get texts from him? Was he in the right end zone for the Lambo leap that happened? Like I saw a couple Lambo leaps on red zone as
He,
it cycled through. Are
he
we
was
Are we saving that? Are we keeping that in the
well,
back pocket as
well,
like a
no, he wasn't sitting that low at Lambeau. It's these
okay?
road games that he's got really good end zone front row seats. So we'll talk about that probably a little bit on Thursday
Good.
with the Titans, and then he's got tickets to the Jacksonville game as well coming up. I want to say week 7. It's October 27th. I know that's the date because the Cardinals are also in Miami. We talked about BYU's at UCF the day before. We as a family talked about doing this big get
There you
together.
go.
It's
Florida.
not happening, but
Mm.
he is still making the trip out to Jacksonville. So it'll be a good time. It'll be a good time. So
That's what's coming up this Thursday. We'll do our normal picks, talk to a guest. That's Wilkin Wiss.
that's Wilk and Wisp, baby, for your bi-weekly uh, breakdown of Utah athletes in the National Football League. Cole, it's always a pleasure, my friend.
Always.
That's Cole Wissinger. I'm Tanner Wilkinson. We'll talk to you on Thursday, folks.